Hey.
All right. Welcome back to Those Millennial Pediatricians. I'm Dr. Aniksha,
I'm Dr. Deshna.
and this is the podcast where we talk about all things children's health in relatable bite-sized pieces. So, first things first, I think we have some housekeeping to discuss.
Drum roll.
So, as of, December, what was that, 4th, I guess?
I
Dr.
don't know.
Deshna and we are both officially board certified. Yay,
Hooray.
which is such a relief. That's our last test for a while since we were when we're like, the PSATs. That's kind of like our first big
Yeah,
test,
like
if you
10th
will.
grade, and it all culminated 20 years later
Yeah, into
into
like
this.
26th grade, whatever grade this is, if you want to think about it
Yes.
in residency. Yeah.
Crazy. Board certified pretty much means we are certified by the American Board of Pediatrics, American Academy of Pediatrics, yeah, American Board of
American Board of
Pediatrics.
Pediatrics.
Yes,
Yeah,
so we are legit. Basically, that's
officially
what it
legit.
means. We're
So all the
legit.
advice we gave you earlier was legit, but now it's super extra legit.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
now we officially know what we're talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly. How was your New Year?
It was good. We didn't really do a whole lot. We went to dinner at this new place in LA, which was really fun. And then we were in bed by midnight, which is exactly how I like it. I love to be in bed for the new year. Good way to start it off.
Yep. I think it's
How
the
about you
best way.
guys?
I'm past the age where I have any desire to, I don't know, be in a loud room and be awake until
Yeah.
midnight.
Yeah,
It's all
I
the
can't
same
do
for
it.
me. I'm really
I
Scrooge
know.
about it now. I think I already told you, but I was super sick, recovering from travel. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure I was like bumped at like 10:30. We had the New York ball drop thing on in the background. And that was it. We called it a night. Woke up the next morning, it was a new day, new year.
Yeah. Although the
Um,
next day when I ran into you, you looked very alive. So you
yes, I
looked great.
felt very fresh, but was still going through it. But thank you.
Yeah.
So it is a new year. Should we discuss our, I guess, is it one in and out of 2026
Yeah,
each?
we should do it. Let's do
So
like
what's in
one
and out?
in, one out.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's
Do you
do
want to
it.
go
You go
first?
first.
Oh,
Oh,
I go first. Okay, okay. My in for this year is to recover from last year. Is to recover from last year. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, last year wasn't that bad. I just feel like it's not like my personal life was bad or anything. It's just I feel like a lot was happening not in our personal life that was scary and like
yeah.
weighed really hard on me mentally.
Yeah.
And, I was in the dumps because of that. So, I'm hoping to go into this year with a more optimistic and hopeful outlook for 2026, although I don't know how that's going so far.
So it is not about optimism, but we should still have it.
But on a more realistic note, maybe like I think we talked about this when we got coffee a few days ago, but to be more whimsical for
I love
2026
that.
or find joy in like the mundane, boring things. I'm signing up for pottery lessons, like a 4-week pottery course that I hope to go to. Just more of finding myself, I guess, outside of my job.
It really is the peak of optimism to start pottery because you just have to be like the time I took pottery, we did a class together and with me and my fiance did a class together and halfway through I was like, why is this looking so strange on the wheel? And the instructor comes over and he's like, so that has clearly ripped on the inside. That's about to fall apart. I know we're halfway. Do you want to try the next step or are you emotionally ready for this thing to just fall apart? And do you want to just start over now instead of 5 minutes from now? And I was like,
Yeah.
I'm not emotionally into this because this is too much effort. It's so hard. And I didn't get it right on the first try. I'm magically not like a pottery genius. And this is horrible. So I feel like people who are good at pottery, like, or people who do pottery are willing to explore the journey,
Yeah.
be optimistic about things getting better and
Yeah.
practicing and all of that. So I give you so much kudos. And really, anyone who does pottery and then is good at pottery, that's just,
Yeah.
it takes so many hours of practice to get there. And after 1 hour, I was like, okay, this is
Time to
hard.
go. I'm pretty artistically challenged, so we'll see how it goes. But maybe when we do our next like update,
I
whatever episode, we'll touch base.
I disagree. I don't think you're artistically challenged. You're like very creative.
Have you seen me draw?
Okay,
You do not want to see me draw.
drawing is a very specific type of art. There's a reason that stuff goes for so many millions of
That's
dollars
like the
because
basis
that's
of
very
being
hard.
artistic. But
But
anyways,
that's not all art. Yeah.
we'll see. We'll see. We'll see. Okay,
I
what's
feel like
your
you're gonna
end?
come back and be like, Anisha, it was so easy. Are you sure you took the right class? And I'm
Here,
gonna be
I
like,
made a matcha bowl.
grumble, grumble.
That's very nice. Thank you. Okay, what's your
true.
in?
What's my in? I think we talked about this one too. I really like your in. Do I have that much optimism? I don't know. I'm a little bit more of a
Oh, like you mean recovering?
recovering. I like that
yeah,
one too.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I think like a smaller in that I really want to work on is just like focusing more on my life here in LA. Like I love all my friends back east, and we obviously friends here, including you. But now that I've kind of decided that I'm here for the next chunk of time and residency's over, I really want to try to put more energy into the people that are around here, see them more often, kind of like create my own community here, because I feel like I always think about all my friends back east or my family back east or my fiance's family up in Northern California. And we're always like, oh, should we move back to those friends and things like that? But it's been enough time that we started to build up a life here. And so I really want to spend that time with the friends and family that are here and like build ourselves a little life in LA. And now we have the free time to like do stuff on the weekends, and I have a schedule and all this kind of stuff. So that's what I want to do, is have more concerted effort to see people here and like put effort into those people here. It's hard. It's hard to have enough time for people in person, virtually. And it's such a boon to have that because of like social media and the internet. That's why you can be more in touch with your friends, but it can be a lot to juggle. I don't know how I clearly didn't do a very good job in residency, and all my friends were super understanding about that. But even now, just with like a regular old job, like there's so much going on. So it really requires like a meaningful, thoughtful effort to like reach out to people and spend the time and be like, oh, I haven't seen that person in a couple weeks. Let's do this or that. But yeah, we love our little life here.
Yeah.
What's leaving? What's going out?
Okay, my out, it's doom scrolling in the morning. Like, you know how when you wake up, also, okay, as I'm very passionate about this, as a side note, also becoming more of a morning person. So as you know, I live very close to the clinic I work at. It takes me 6 minutes door to door, which is a blessing. But then it also begets like laziness, because there are many mornings where I set my alarm for like whatever. I don't have to be until 8:30, and I snooze, and then all of a sudden I realize it's 8. And I'm like, shoot, I have to get up. I'm like rushing. I'm like, time to go. I should have gone up earlier to sip my coffee, maybe read a little bit, but instead I'm like frantically getting ready. So anyways, my out is lazing in bed too long before it's too late. And then my second out, doom scrolling, no scrolling in the morning, and like doing something else, because I feel like it really dictates what my day will look like in terms of my mood and my attitude. And I notice a big difference.
I do so much doom scrolling. I think it came a lot from residency. Like your brain is at 1,000 and you can't just come home and have it be 0. And so, but I also was like, I've thought about so many things. We've seen so many things. Maybe it's been an emotional day. I cannot like talk about things sometimes, or I can't look at things that aren't just quick little silly things. And so sometimes doom scrolling was my way of like coming down from like a hard day or a long day. And I remember talking to my therapist about it, and I was like, this is horrible. And she's like, listen, there are worse things. Hopefully this isn't like a forever habit, and this is something you can work on after residency. But for now, if you're watching some videos of like dogs running into a wall because they didn't see it, that's okay. But now residency is over, and it's like, okay, my job isn't 1,000 anymore. So I need to be a little more like involved in real life, and you really get disconnected from things.
Speaking of out, should we discuss what's out per the CDC?
Do you want to?
I can guess what the CDC's out of 2026 is. It's a bunch of vaccines.
What's
So
out is preventing diseases. That's what's
yeah,
out.
exactly. Exactly. That's a theme for this year. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, let's talk about what's happening in the news. I think we chose only one headline for this episode because I think
What's
that's going to
plenty.
take up the entire episode, to be honest. And I was like, there is no time for anything else. So, anyways, as of Monday, I'm sure you all heard the CDC shortened the list of vaccines recommended for all children. So it dropped the number of diseases targeted from 18 to 11, which is pretty unprecedented in the sense that it conflicts directly with the guidance that the American Academy of Pediatrics are recommending. So that is the big headline. And maybe we can go into exactly what that means. So basically, what happened is that the CDC has updated how certain vaccines are categorized. So now these are stratified into certain categories. So some vaccines are universally recommended regardless of your medical background or your age. Some are recommended for certain high risk groups. And the third group is based on shared decision making or parental preference. So the universally recommended vaccines are still very much the ones that are pretty much required, at least in California, for school entrance. So the DTaP, Tdap, the Hib vaccine, the pneumococcal vaccine, polio, measles, varicella, HPV, those are universally recommended. Now, what's changed is that there's certain vaccines that have been categorized into high risk for high risk individuals only. So that includes the RSV vaccine. And I don't like to call it a vaccine because it's an immunoglobulin, right? And there's a difference. And I think we talk about that in our episode that we recorded previously where we talk about RSV. So anyways, the RSV, hepatitis B, meningitis, Hep A, those are for high-risk individuals only. And then shared decision making is the rotavirus vaccine, which is a routine newborn oral vaccine, COVID, meningococcal, Hep A, Hep B, and influenza. So basically there's this shift from being recommended for everyone to being more risk-based and shared decision making, like criteria or categories. So that's a general summary of what's happening.
Yeah. I don't even know where to where to start with this. It's just so wild. Yeah. Yeah. I think especially and we can talk about this more in a second too, the meningococcal one is kind of strange because meningitis can hit anyone regardless of like your health or your previous conditions or whatever. And then did you see how they changed the schedule? Like they were like somewhere between 2 months to 10 years, you can give anywhere between
Yeah.
2, 3, or 4 doses. It's like we already don't, for these recommendations to then be like, actually you can give it earlier than you already recommend giving it is a weird move by people who are just trying to do fewer vaccines in the first place. So you want more vaccines earlier on. And the second thing is the reason we do it at the time we do it is because that's when you're more likely to
get it
contract
and spread
meningitis or to
it.
get really sick and spread it and stuff like that. And then they're like, well, for kids who will join like a college dorm, if you look down at the fine print, then yes, they should get meningitis and that's considered a high risk group. First of all, that's like most children who go to college in the first place. So that's kind of wild. And then if they're finishing their dose by 10, by the time they join college at 18, it's like that immunization, like all those antibodies and everything, all that protection has waned so much. It's like, that's why we don't start it so early. So that was a really strange change they made without any evidence. I think generally going into why they recommend this in the first place, first of all, I think it's important for us to say that there is no new evidence that's been put out that actually supports these changes, but there's a lot of emphasis on flexibility and having more parental choice. I think there's that smaller but also important discussion to some people that we're getting we as physicians and pediatricians get kickbacks on vaccines, which if we did, I am owed so much more money than it is in my bank account currently.
I'd be rich.
I'd be so rich. Like there would not be this discussion of loans and so many people would be trying to go into pediatrics instead of anything else that paid more.
Yeah.
And then I guess it kind of aligns with some other international approaches for like certain countries like Denmark and things like that, which are a minuscule population compared to the United States. And even Denmark has been like, what are you guys doing over there? You guys are not Denmark. This is not the right move. So we're not really aligning with European approaches. We're kind of just picking and choosing which one looks kind of fun for us to try. But I think even with all this, they're trying to frame it as increased transparency and trust. But like you said, it's just going to breed a lot of mistrust because we've had the schedule for years. We still believe in that because no new evidence has come out. And there's actually a complete lack of transparency on how they chose made all of these decisions. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I find the aligning with international approaches interesting because, it's like, oh, claiming to align with all these European countries, which is also like such a blanket statement because to your point, countries like Denmark, Finland, Sweden, there's so much variability in these European countries. They're very homogenous populations. Their own epidemiologic data varies. We're also assuming like they have universal health care, so diagnosing follow-up is a lot more feasible. Like we are not the same. And so to say, oh, we want, well, so and so country does it, like why can't we? Well, it's like hello. Like UK, Spain, Italy, they still recommend a lot of these vaccines. Like they are still universally recommended. So to just pick a random country and be like, well, look at Denmark, like they're doing fine. And it's like, well, we're nothing like Denmark.
We're not Denmark. I don't know what to tell you. I think what's even harder too is like, it's not just coming from like pediatricians who just only see super healthy outpatient kids and they never see the inside of a hospital or the inside of the hospital walls. Like these recommendations all are made up of outpatient pediatricians, inpatient pediatricians, ICU pediatricians, people who see like over the last 3 years, even in our training, we've seen multiple kids with flu who were previously healthy, athletic, things like that, like never needed to be seen by a doctor, all of a sudden just in the ICU with influenza A. And so it's really dangerous to have this line of thinking that kids are going to be fine. And if your kid is healthy, they don't need these vaccines and they're going to be just fine because God forbid that happens. That's why we vaccinate everybody. Something happened that we didn't expect. And so that's why we protect everybody. So to just have everybody be in these like 3 groups for whatever reason, it's not thorough enough. And it's also, as pediatricians, how am I supposed to say, okay, you're not a high risk kid, or okay, like, like you're fully healthy and nothing's going to happen in the future. That's a lot easier said for kids where we know they have certain conditions and things like that. But all kids have immune systems that are growing and learning. All kids are at some risk, and even adults are at some risk too, the way adults have been getting flu this year. And so it's kind of interesting to be like, yeah, that'll be fine. And you're like, okay, well, we don't have evidence for a new framework on how to divide kids into these 3 groups or anything like that. So that's kind of interesting. I think as pediatricians, we're like, how would we even move forward with this? But also at its foundation, we don't agree with this anyway. So I think to your point, like following the AAP guidelines is really where we're at right now.
Yeah, for sure. We covered a lot of like potential consequences or why we worry as pediatrician, right? So number one, right, loss of herd immunity. I think that's discussed a lot when it comes to vaccines in general, but once overall coverage drops or once, more and more kids stop getting these necessary vaccine, essentially all the community protection that was holding everything in place collapses. So that leads to, right, increased outbreak frequency. And then now instead of using all of our resources for prevention and education, we're scrambling to do outbreak control, which is often extremely chaotic and it utilizes our resources in an extremely inefficient way. And I don't know, just the last part is that I feel like a lot of people don't understand the complications of a lot of these diseases. A lot of these diseases are framed as quote unquote mild, like, oh, kids recover just fine. Well, even if they do get them, they recover fine or they don't get it at all because they have this shot to protect them in the first place. And a lot of these mild quote unquote diseases have actually life-threatening consequences, right? So measles, right? Do you remember when Roald Dahl wrote that open essay about his daughter who died from encephalitis years later after getting measles already? Like, sure, she recovered fine from the acute infection, but then died because of this encephalitis that can happen years later. But I'm really worried about infection outbreak, especially in schools, among our most vulnerable populations, immunocompromised kids. I could go on and on.
Hopefully, some things like flu and stuff like that, we hope your child mostly recovers just fine. But still, even including flu and all these other things, do you really want your child to have hepatitis, any form of hepatitis?
Yeah.
I mean, like, is that really a risk that you want to take? They only get one liver. It doesn't all regrow or anything like that, And
Yeah.
so there's some really devastating consequences. And I
Hmm.
think there's no new evidence showing that the old schedule was unsafe. There's no new evidence showing why the new schedule makes sense. So I guess we can talk about what hasn't changed. So one thing
Hmm.
that hasn't changed is that there's still a lot of those core childhood vaccines that are strongly recommended that Deshna mentioned. And then again, we in the AAP still recommend like the full schedule. So our recommendations have not changed unless evidence change, in which time we would reevaluate. And then I think one of the important things is that insurance coverage for now still remains in place. And then a lot of states still aren't changing their recommendations. So you will still likely need a lot of these to enroll your child in school or to maintain them in school. They need a lot of these
Hmm.
vaccines still. So schools have not changed based on these recommendations either. And again, it's only been a couple of days, so things might change. But as of now, that all remains the same. And so even if, even if there's new evidence or things like that, it still takes some time for us to change those schedules based on what evidence is out there and things like that. So I think even with all of this, we'll have to kind of see how everything else plays out over time.
Yeah. And what this means for parents in general. So again, like you said, your child can and still should, that is our stance, should receive all of the recommended vaccinations. Expect a lot more like open dialogue and conversation with your pediatrician, but not fewer options. It's not like you should be getting this pick and choose from these, like, I don't know, 11 diseases that you want to be vaccinated against, or you want your child to be vaccinated against. My only other thing I was going to add is they categorized the RSV shot as high risk, like for high risk
Yeah.
infants. Like you you can only,
And
infants are high risk, like regardless of medical history, like chronologic age remains the highest risk factor for
yeah.
acquiring RSV and getting into the hospital. Because
It's
I
funny
think
because then what they do is they put that fine print, and the fine print for each vaccine is different, which makes it extra confusing. So a parent who looks at that then has to read all this different fine print. And so underneath they write, I think for infants whose mothers did not get the vaccine, this is highly recommended. It's like, that is
Mm,
actually not a change in the recommendation. Like, we've already been doing that, but by you moving it to this category with the fine print like that,
yeah.
it makes it very difficult versus saying, hey, it's actually universally recommended unless you get the RSV vaccine, which is what we do now. We already do
Anyway,
that. We don't give you RSV on both ends, and we've seen that they're equally as effective. So it's
yeah.
very annoying when they do that, because then they're like, oh, well, only if you're high risk. It's like, well, everyone is high risk. But then you're saying if you don't get the RSV vaccine, but then you're creating a lot of discussion around, are vaccines in general necessary? Then it makes a lot of pregnant women be like, do I really need this
Need
vaccine?
the,
And you're like,
yeah.
come on. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
so much.
So, anyways, yeah, I guess we
Anyway,
can close out. I think you get the idea.
I during this whole episode, we're both just like, this is
This is
dumb.
bad.
This is
This is
bad, and this is dumb,
this is
and we
dumb
don't
and
have a lot
scary.
of fun, quippy things to say because we're annoyed and kind of worried and frustrated, to say the least. Late.
Okay, let's close out. We should close out. Okay, so
All right.
anyways, as you know, I think you can tell that we think this is one of the biggest and most dangerous vaccine policy shifts in years. It's not to say, obviously, they're not banning vaccines. It's just changing how they're framed. But it's still dangerous because I think it kind of leaves things in the gray zone. And I think the risk for potential outbreaks of diseases that we once thought were rare will soon be very much occurring. But yeah, talk to your pediatrician. Don't just look at the headlines. I would say it's very much okay to still go by the AAP for guidelines. And of course, if any doubts or concerns or worries, please talk to us. We are here for you.
And I think just to highlight that again, like all of these new headlines don't mean that we're more irritated when parents come in with more questions. We're always happy to answer those questions because we care, and we always look at every individual child based on their individual health. We're not just like, well, we said it's the AAP, so that's that. Like, we still look at everyone's individual risk or things like that, or there's certain vaccines they shouldn't get. All of that still counts. And so we're always happy to have those conversations. So the frustration is more around caring for children's health and children in general, and not wanting them to, not wanting them to get hurt, do no harm, all that stuff. And so it's never with parents or things like that. It's just always around the fact that we care about kids, and when there's no evidence that shows that there's something new to help them more or hurt them less, then there's really no reason to change things just to create confusion and chaos, and worse, a lot more hospital admissions and a lot more hurt.
Well, thanks for listening to us rant. We hope this was helpful. And we'll catch you at the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.